Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. We got an email this week at planttalkradio.com from Jack, and he says, this is really no big problem, but is there any way to keep my large Beefmaster tomatoes from cracking? And then in parentheses, he says, don't worry, just so you know, I'm going to eat them anyway.
Well, that's the first thing I would have told him. Now, to avoid the cracking is a little difficult. However, I have found in talking with people who have had that problem, especially with the bigger tomatoes, that when they can think back, they do realize they had let the whole tomato patch go dry or dry-ish in between waterings or rains. And when the skin of the tomato stops growing and then becomes what I'm going to call a little hardened off, then it starts to get some water or rain again. Then it starts to grow internally and expand. It will just split itself.
Sure.
But you don't even usually have to cut the bad spot out.
No.
You just you hide it under the meat in the sandwich instead of on top.
You put a big slab on a sandwich, you're not going to see that.
It isn't going to make a bit of difference.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
right. So I would tell you, Mark, that some of the people, one lady was such an avid gardener and on such a shoestring budget, she would go to motels that were changing carpeting, and she would pick up pieces of carpeting, cut them to the shapes she needed, and put them in the pathways between tomato plants and onions and rows of things. It didn't look like much, but she had a fine garden, and the thickness. And she would turn the carpeting upside down, so you couldn't tell that she hadn't matched patterns and so on.
Row to row carpeting, right there. Yeah.
But it was humorous, and I think back on it. But she used it as a mulch. Some people use straw. Some that don't totally compost things will spread some compost or just the half decayed materials around, etc. So that the uniformity of the water is, I think, the big key in that and other tomatoes.
Good luck this year.
That's right.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Hi, this is meteorologist Jennifer Naramore. You hear my daily forecast. Now you can check out our podcast about one of nature's most fascinating phenomenon, tornadoes. You'll hear from scientists, storm chasers, and storm survivors. Plus, stories never told before. They're so riveting you can see them in your mind. They can happen anywhere in the world, any day of the year. Don't miss the next episode of Tornado Talk.
Circle270media.com